I'm Jessica Minden, Friday Times TV with your midday market update, and joining me today is Joe Greco of Meridian. Now, after this past weekend with Black Friday sales and Cyber Monday sales, those e-commerce and online sales just soared. And then you look at those Black Friday sales, it's almost as if consumers weren't spending as much, but the markdowns were just so competitive with companies. What did you make of everything that was going on with these sales this past weekend?
Right, so it seems like all the brick and mortar retailers really did the best they could to lure people into the stores, and both the head count and the actual, gross sales really didn't meet what expectations were, which kind of leaves, a little bit, a wonder what the numbers are going to be when we hear in the first quarter how they did to end the year in the holiday season. And of course, the cyber sales are doing very well. That's something that continues to be a growing trend, especially as you hear about companies like Amazon, Best Buy, everybody shifting the focus.
Now, speaking of Best Buy, they warned in their earnings report a couple weeks ago that because they have so many promotions going on right now, trying to compete with all these other retailers, that might impact them in a negative way for the fourth quarter. Do you think that a lot of companies are going to come out and say that now when they do release their earnings later on in January and February?
Right, that very well could be the case, and not necessarily tracking the entire retail sector, but you do see, the clothing and things that people traditionally would buy necessarily online. Retaining that business, so I think it's going to be very difficult for the department stores that have been struggling already to see those increased sales. But then you get companies like Best Buy, as you point out, who have a ton of electronics, and I think what I've heard and what I've seen is that they actually limited the amount of inventory they carried and tried to reduce the price to incentivize people to come in and shop in the store or shop online. And once they were out of that product, they were out of it. That, of course, does guarantee that you have a low inventory left on the shelf, but you also, of course, cap how much your revenue you could bring in.
Now, moving over to the motor vehicle sales data that we got today, we had Chrysler, Ford, they definitely beat expectations. So as we head into the year end, what are you expecting to see from these big motor companies?
Well, but it's good to see that they still are capitalizing on those year-end holiday time sales, and there is some interest out there for people to go and get that new lease or a new car. It's a big ticket item. But what is concerning is that you hear it from a company like Ford, who didn't take any money during the financial meltdown from the government, and then Chrysler, who's actually was taken over by Fiat and was slated to IPO this year, will probably come sometime in Q1 or Q2 of next year. Clearly, they're doing better. So that, combined with GM, who's now out of the pressure, the overhang of the Treasury, who's pretty much sold out of all their position, kind of difficult to gauge. Is retail business struggling? Well, what does that mean for the big ticket items, and is there going to be enough money left over for the consumer to take on that type of a purchase going into the new year?